season they're just beginning. That's the first of them. Jessica Le Mesurier, they're in the newsroom. It's indeed time for the France 24 debate. We're going to be talking about Syria, where after 6 months of a brutal standoff that so far, according to the UN, left 2,700 dead, well, there's no let-up. In fact, the country seems to be lurching closer and closer to civil war. This Monday, human rights groups accused government troops of going house to house in the central town of Rastan, detaining more than 3,000 people in the past 72 hours. This in the wake of some of the worst fighting since the anti-Assad protests blew up back in March. More and more, we're getting reports of mutinous soldiers returning fire with government troops. Meanwhile, in Istanbul, Sunday, the formal establishment of a broad opposition coalition. Its aim to overthrow the Assad regime by peaceful means without Libyan-style outside intervention. We're going to look at the makeup and strategy of the Syrian National Council and its street credibility inside of that country. Today, in the France 24 debate, rebellion in Syria. And with us from Istanbul, a member of that brand new Syrian National Council, Hassan Hashimi. You're an architect that works in the Toronto area, I believe. How would you qualify yourself? Where your political views? All right, we seem to have trouble reaching Hassan Hashimi just now, but we will shortly in a moment. Also with us here in the studio, Bassam Bitar, whose life changed from one day to the next back in 1987. You were a diplomat.
Yes, sir.
At the Syrian embassy here in Paris.
Yes, sir.
And you were fired.
Exactly.
And from that point on, you could never return home.
Exactly.
And now you live in the Washington area.
I live in Washington area, and I was fired for some opinion. Who the Syrian government, they don't like my opinion till today, and I still fighting for my right. I still fighting for my freedom. I still fighting for my democracy.
All right.
And we will have it soon.
And we're going to talk a lot about the best way of going about it in a moment. Also with us, we're pleased to welcome from the University of Oklahoma, Joshua Landis, who's responsible for what you find on SyrianComment.com, one of the most respected blogs on the crisis there. Thank you for being with us. And also for tips on how to build an opposition movement, we're going to be drawing on the experiences of Laurie Dundon in places like the Balkans and Darfur. She's with the Partnership for a Secure America. You're also with experience at the U.S. State Department and working with the former U.S. Secretary of State and Ambassador to the UN, Madeleine Albright. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for following the show on Facebook. We'll be looking at some of your comments later, and on Twitter, where our handle is @FrancoisF24. I hope we have the connection now with Istanbul. Hassan, we do not yet, so we'll go to Hassan Hashimi as soon as we can. Bassam Bitar, let me get first of all your reaction to the situation in Rostan, and have you been able to speak to people? Have you been able to piece together exactly what's going on there?
Yes, indeed. And actually that reminded me many movie in World War II. In June 1945, when you see the whole destruction for many cities in Europe, Rastan is the same exactly. When you see the Syrian regime, they use 250 military sharp. Plus they have more than 50 sorties of airplane, military airplane, plus the use of the helicopter to shoot everybody, to shoot the civilian house, to shoot the non-military, non-army people.
And you've had confirmation of this how?
I have it by Skype with many friends who they live over there or around the area. I cannot even, sorry to give you the address exactly, but I am in communication with them. I do have some friends, they just arrived yesterday from Syria, and they give me the description. It's total catastrophic situation. I mean, it's inhuman. I don't know which word I can use to give you the exact description. We never see it in any place in the world, even after World War II. I can say to give you a description not too far from Hiroshima.
Joshua Landis, have you been able to piece together from your end what's going on exactly in Rastan right now?
Yeah, that was good.
Well, the town had fallen out of government control, and it had become a center for defecting soldiers to gather. and it had tried to defend itself against the government retaking it. And the government moved in and has retaken it now. And I gather quite a few people have been killed. But this is clearly the Syrian government is very anxious that part of Syria will fall out of control of the central government. And that would then provide a platform for of the Free Syrian Army to begin to, yes.
And Joshua Landis, when you say that the town tried to defend itself, what do we know about that exactly? How did they try to defend themselves?
Well, a number of soldiers were killed, and they had guns. These are defecting soldiers who had, we don't know how many. There were accounts of 500 or so gathering there. But this was an armed opposition, and increasingly the Syrian opposition is getting armed. Various troop vehicles had been attacked, and so the government had surrounded the town, was moving in closely and using tanks and moved in on the town to retake it.
And the use of force by those, of the resistance of those in the opposition, have they? Is it fair to say, Joshua, that they've taken it to a new level inside Syria?
It's they're definitely gaining more and more weapons, and they are getting organized. More soldiers, soldiers have defected, and there are many calls from people both inside and particularly outside Syria for an armed rebellion and for government, for foreign no-fly zone for a Libya situation to reoccur. And that's the reason why I think the Syrian government is particularly anxious not to let a Benghazi situation develop, which could then act as a staging ground for training opposition and arming opposition elements. And that's what the Syrian government is going to try to not let happen.
All right, I think we have now the connection with Istanbul. Hassan Hashimi, I don't know how much you heard there of Joshua Landis, but what's the information you're getting as to the situation in Rastan?
I'm so sorry, I wasn't really able to hear what the gentleman, your guest, said before I joined this conversation. But the situation in Rastan, as we all know, I think it was a brutal attack on the city of Rastan to try to confront the defection part of the army, and the brutality of the regime demolished quite a large part of the city. We don't have exact numbers of the casualties and how much of the city has been destroyed yet.
So, as we heard Joshua Landis say, we're more and more soldiers who've defected are taking up weapons. So we have a polarization that's going crescendo inside the country. Over in Istanbul, where Hassan Hashimi is, over the weekend, there was the opposition taking it to a new level on the civilian front. A broad-ranging coalition finally striking a deal to form a civilian umbrella group. Let's take a look.
It's the broadest-based group formed so far by the Syrian opposition. The creation of the Syrian National Council was formally announced on Sunday in Istanbul. It's intended to act as a united front in the face of Bashar al-Assad's regime.
The council is a representative body of the Syrian revolution, both inside and outside the country. This council will work on mobilizing the Syrian people and providing all the support necessary for the revolution.
Those represented on the council include the following: representatives of Syria's local coordination committees who have been running the uprising on the ground, opposition figures who are signatories to the liberal Damascus Declaration, and the Syrian arm of the Muslim Brotherhood, a political and religious group currently banned in the country. As in post-revolutionary Egypt, questions remain over the commitment of members such as the Muslim Brotherhood to liberal principles. But in public at least, members of the council have pledged to allow a range of voices.
Well, we are proposing a civil, pluralistic, democratic state for Syria.
On the ground in Syria, the UN estimates that over 2,700 people have been killed since the uprising began 6 months ago. For protesters inside the country, unity among their representatives abroad can't come soon enough.
And over on Twitter, Rawia writes the following: SNC, you guys are 6 months late, but look at the hope you've given the people inside Syria. Better not let them down now. Hassan Hashimi, was it difficult coming up with the agreement to form this Syrian National Council?
It was, of course, quite a journey. The opposition, different opposition party in Syria didn't have previous experience in interacting with each other, so it really needed a lot of work in order to kind of get in touch with everybody involved and get everybody to to join the council. The time needed for this, the last part of the project was to bring together the conclusion of the previous conferences started in Istanbul, Antalya, Brussels, and Istanbul again, to kind of conclude all this together with other parties who not necessarily participated in conferences to be all part of this council. So the time needed for this was all full of continuous work and negotiation to come up with this unified representation of the Syrian people.
That's an interesting point, and it also brings us back, Laurie Dundon, to what Joshua Landis said earlier about there is no Benghazi for the Syrians, there is no bridgehead for a home base, if you will, for the opposition. So that timeline of 6 months between the time when the uprising began and now, what do you think of it?
Well, I think it's been a slow rolling issue of the attacks on civilians and casualties, but each one is concerning and important. And you have time passing and an urgency growing for there to be some action, some unified action. So it's the challenge, as you just said, of how to bring everyone together to reach a tipping point. And that's something we've seen in a number of other revolutions. No one case is exactly like another, but how do you bring that constellation of stars together to tip the point, tip the momentum, to break a regime that has nothing to lose?
Bassam Bitar, you were saying before we went on air that you were offered a plane ticket to Istanbul and decided not to attend.
Yeah, for many reasons, because I'm not agree with the variety of the composition of the council, who, of course, I will support them. I will wish them good luck, and I will be working with them. I have no problem, because everybody, like my colleague Hassan, he mentioned, everybody wasn't represented, short of time, short of many things, and we have to go fast because we have too many people, they die every day. Not according to Mr. Joshua, he said only few people killed in Rastan, who is not true. I can say it's more than 100 people was killed in Rastan. So that's why we have to go fast. We have some problem to accept each other as opposition. We have some problem, lack of democracy, because we wasn't prepared for any democracy for the last 40 years with the Assad regime, who is dictatorship. So we wasn't really prepared for that.
Are you glad that the SNC now exists?
Of course, of course. I am so glad. I am glad, like the other 23 million people in Syria, who they support this SNC, and we are willing to work with them, and we are willing to correct any mistake down the road, and we are willing to do anything we can, because we love really our country, and really we are hoping to see freedom and democracy in this country.
Joshua Landis, how representative, to your eyes, is the Syrian National Council?
Well, this is the third time that there's been a national council announced, and it's clearly gets more representative every time. And as my colleague just said, Syria has not had democracy for about 50 years, and it's very difficult for Syrians to come together. They're it's a big country with many different types of people, but each time has become much better. There are still factions that feel like they're not represented in this, and we've heard from several of them. But this is very important. It still doesn't have an executive committee. It doesn't have the secretariat. It's not announced. There are many elements that we would like to see the council having decided on, which have not happened, probably because there's disagreement. Now, that's natural. But on the other hand, as everybody has said, Syria is in a bad shape. Many people are dying. We don't know how many people have died in Rastan yet, but it's a lot, undoubtedly. And people are waiting to have a leadership so that they will have an alternative to this regime.
Hassan Hashimi, we spoke earlier to one member of a Syrian local council. We're going to be hearing from him in part 2. But one of the things he said to us that he was slightly wary, he felt as though the Muslim Brotherhood was overrepresented. What do you think about that? Is the Muslim Brotherhood overrepresented inside the SNC?
Not at all, but let me, before getting into this, just to comment on a little point. In terms of the representation in general we have in the Syrian National Council and after the last negotiations and yesterday's announcement, I think everybody appreciates that these negotiations took really a big effort and long time. And when it was reached to just yesterday or the day before yesterday, late at night, different parties need time to name their representatives and decide on their representation in the General Secretariat and the Executive Committee. So there's no misunderstanding. I can assure everybody now that now things are going on the right track, and everybody is now on board working on naming their representations, their representatives to the different parts of the structure of the council.
And on the issue of whether or not the Muslim Brotherhood is overrepresented?
Yes, the Muslim Brotherhood are not overrepresented. The general representation for Muslim Brotherhood is 20 seats in the whole 190 seats that are called for right now, 230 up the ceiling that the council has allowed. They have 20 seats in total. The representation of the Islamic background in general and the general scenery of Syria is going to be about 30%, 29-30%. So there's no overrepresentation whatsoever, no, not at all.
Now, when we come back, we're going to look more at the strategy issues. Stay with us. The France 24 debate continues.
Follow the French presidential campaign on France 24. France 2012 brings you all the news from the world of French politics. Get the latest news, buzz, the background deals, as well as in-depth analysis from our political correspondents and special guests. France 2012 with Mark Perelman, Thursday, 4:10 p.m. Paris time on France 24.